This is the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we are going to be talking with a point guard who played at Alabama from 2010 through 2014. He scored 1,873 points with 263 steals, played in 134 games at Alabama, and started 126 of those games. Trevor Releford, the former Alabama basketball player, will join us right after this open right here on the Stingray Show.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, Here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And ladies and gentlemen, with all of that, I want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. And keeping with the theme of college basketball and Alabama, I'm about to be joined by a former Alabama point guard who played right here at the University of Alabama, and his brother also played for Bill Self and the University of Kansas. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the Stingray Show, Mr. Trevor Releford. Trevor, how are things with you this evening?
It's going good. It's going good. Definitely, thanks for having me. And that was a sick intro too. So I'm enjoying this one already.
Thank you, man. So I've got to ask you right off the top, what are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, so I'm actually back in Birmingham, and I'm selling insurance. Actually working with a former Tide hoops player himself, and Terrence Mead over at Amwin. So I've been there for going on 4 years, and doing some other stuff on the side with some of my former players, and just enjoying life back in Birmingham.
That's awesome.
Trevor, I want to ask you a fun question before we get going. Who was your first favorite player growing up? Who was your first favorite basketball player?
Oh, and see, I'm from Big 12 country, so I got to throw one out there. And I would say Kirk Heinrich, for sure at KU. I mean, he was, I think, everybody's favorite PG. If you grew up where I'm from, you're definitely Jayhawk fans and whatnot. So definitely Kirk Heinrich, Tyronn Lue. There's a guy that I grew up kind of idolizing and kind of molded my game out there a little bit. He kind of mentored me a little bit as well growing up. So yeah, definitely those two guys.
So I'm guessing you're a Rock Chalk Jayhawk fan growing up.
Yeah, it's more tied in my blood, but yeah, it's my brother went there, and my mom, she's a big Jayhawk fan. I told her she should have cheered for us a little bit more. She was kind of giving my brother favoritism in that stance, but yeah, definitely Jayhawks.
So, Trevor, a quick question about current day. If you still had eligibility, how much fun would you have playing in the Nate Oates system?
Oh man, I know one thing. You have to be in even better shape. I thought I played a lot in games back then and had heavy minutes, but I mean those guys with Oates, I mean they get up and down it's a lot of possessions, a lot of, a lot of offensive like ability to showcase your talent and get some shots up. And I mean, I would have enjoyed it. Definitely getting up and down and still being able to play some defense and try to lock up on that end. So yeah, it would have been fun.
Trevor, you're talking about your brother played at Kansas. Of course, you played at Alabama. Where did you get your basketball ability and skills from? Was it your mom? Did she claim it that it was her, that you got all your athletic ability from her?
Yeah, she tried to take a little claim, but she never played any sports at all. But we definitely get our toughness from her. She's a single mom, so I mean we definitely get that toughness from her and just kind of seeing my brother. My oldest brother played a little bit, and then Travis, who played at Kansas. Yeah, so I was able to take a little bit from each one of them and add it to my own game. I got picked on a lot, so I had no choice but to turn out and be good.
So, Trevor, a quick follow-up to that. Let's talk briefly about your brother. While he was there at Kansas with Bill Self, he went to 4 Sweet 16, 2 Elite Eights, and 1 Final Four. What was it like for you watching your brother Travis play in the Final Four?
It was. I mean, it was an insane feeling, seeing him get to that level. But I think bringing it full circle was actually seeing Alabama get there last year, and just seeing that Kansas have success year after year, and then my brother now he's calling me and giving me updates on Alabama just because I mean they're number one and they're in the conference championship every year and in contention to win it every year. So he's calling me how I was doing him when he was at KU. So it's kind of crazy, full circle moment to see where Alabama's at, but also see my brother go through it was cool.
Yes.
Trevor, when did you learn that you were good at basketball? Like it was coming easier to you than other people? Was it, when you first started? Was it junior high? Did you hit that, in high school? When was it for you where you're like, I'm good at this?
Yeah, I would say I never really like had that thought or that feeling just because like I'm like falling behind my brother. You know what I'm saying? He was the top rated player. He was going to Kansas. He was Gatorade, Kansas player of the year. He did all those things. So I just feel like I mean it was probably after my freshman year going through the SEC because like coming into college, I was still a little nervous, not to like I didn't know what to expect. I know I had to get a lot stronger. And the SEC at that time was really physical. So getting through that year and being able to play against guys like Scenario Hillman every day, I was like, okay, I can do something with this game and you can see like over the years my confidence kept growing. But I
Mm-hmm.
had to get through that freshman year with some dogs to kind of get that confidence going forward. So
Well,
definitely.
you made the all freshman, the all rookie team in the SEC.
Yeah.
Then I believe the next year you were second team all SEC, and then the following year you were first team all SEC, and you were also on the all defensive team. So with all of that, and you talked about it getting a little bit bigger, it was a physical league. But what would you say you learned each year? So, the freshman year, as you mentioned, it was physical. You had to get stronger. But what did you learn that sophomore year, that junior year?
I mean, I think just like the time I put in over the summers, like I don't think a lot of people know, but like I mean, I in the summers I would spend a little bit of time, just with my brother, being out in I think Brandon Rush, who's a close family friend, we would be with him sometimes in the summers. Teron Lou, like I said, he mentored me a lot growing up in Kansas City. So being able to be out there with those guys in the summer and kind of playing against pros and just seeing the game and him kind of guiding me on some things as the game kind of slowed down for me is where I kind of took those steps at Alabama and also just Coach Grant, just his confidence each year. I mean, from day one I got the keys, I feel like, and yeah, so I mean every year was just like, hey, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. And I mean they had the resources in play for me to make those steps.
So, Trevor, Hold that thought. We are up against our first break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about your recruitment to Alabama. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Trevor Releford will continue with us right after this. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Trevor Releford, the former Alabama point guard who played at Alabama from 2010 through 2014. And Trevor, let's go back to high school, because not only did you play basketball, but you also helped your team win the 4A state championship in 2009 in football. What made you decide ultimately to give up football for basketball?
Yeah, so I mean that's a real good question because I think football was my first love. So
What position did you play in
and
football?
so I played cornerback, receiver, and in high school. I mean, I went to a private school, so I mean, you can play both sides of the ball. Unlike you go down the street at Hoover High School, you play one position,
Right.
just because of the amount of guys. But yeah, so I played on both sides of the ball. But that was my first love, and I think I entertained it all the way up until I went on, I think, my Oklahoma visit,
Right.
because my best friend, he was going there to play receiver. And we always wanted to go to the same school, so Oklahoma was really my first option. But I knew that Jeff Capel would most likely be out due to some NCAA stuff that was happening the year before. So I was just kind of like still entertaining the football, and Coach Stoops was there. He watched a ton of our practices, and he offered me. And I think I want to say it was DeMarco Murray, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, you want me to play cornerback, and then I got to hit guys like that. Yeah, you can cancel me out. It's a lot different. It's a lot different from high school. So yeah, that right there for me. And then coming to Alabama, the next visit, you see Trent, you see Mark, like all those guys in the locker room. You're like, yeah, football is not. Yeah, I'm a stick to basketball. Business
Who gets
decision.
more love on the recruiting visits? The football players or the basketball players?
Oh, I would say basketball.
Okay.
Yeah,
And why is
yeah.
that?
I mean, because we're there. Ooh, I don't know. I mean, maybe at Alabama it's different, but going and seeing my brother at KU, I mean, those guys definitely got a lot more love. I guess it depends on the school, but
Right.
I mean, my visit when I came, it was, I mean, Saban opens the door, which I mean, all the football guys probably get that, but I mean, we're meeting Saban. It's like they're pulling out all the stops, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my visit was pretty cool.
So, Trevor, going back to football briefly, who all was recruiting you to come and play football?
Yeah, so I would say I would say it was a lot of Big 12, but the
Okay.
main verbals was just K State. I think it would definitely Oklahoma, and then yeah, some more local smaller schools around Kansas. But everybody knew at that time that I mean I was probably going to play more basketball because
Gotcha.
I think my top five was Tennessee, Oklahoma, Alabama, UCLA. Um, and I forget the last one. Yeah, so it was like, okay, he's going to play basketball, most likely.
Gotcha.
Now, was Bruce Pearl at Tennessee at the top?
Yes, Bruce Pearl was at Tennessee.
All right. What is the recruiting pitch? Because Bruce is amazing at recruiting. We all know this. So,
Yeah.
what is the recruiting pitch? And all the love and spin that Bruce puts on it. What is he telling you guys?
Bruce is nah I could just imagine what he's doing now, and then you have like the NIL part of it as well, which
Yeah.
I mean back then that was kind of frowned upon. But you know,
We
I
all know
think
it went
that
down. It was frowned upon by the NCAA, but everybody was okay with it.
yeah. So I mean, I think you get a guy like Bruce, and he actually came to my house. So that was one of my in-house visits. And Steve Forbes, who's at Wake Forest now, and the head coach, that was Bruce Pearl's like recruiting guy in our area. So I mean, I used to leave school and do a workout at like midday, and Steve Forbes would be there just kind of evaluating me. So they were really hands on. And I mean, I could just imagine how those guys are recruiting now, because being back then, the pull me out of school to do a workout. And at that time, it's like, yeah, this is Tennessee. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's a good opportunity, you know, just to, you know, show those guys what I got. But yeah, he sat in the house, you know, my mom loved him or whatnot. But I mean, at that point, I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 guards that kind of bagged out from Tennessee. It was Josh Selby, Aaron Craft. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it was either Oklahoma, and I really didn't even think it was Alabama till I just got to campus.
Right.
Mm.
So yeah.
Hey, since we've been talking about Bruce Pearl, do you think this is his last season at Auburn? Do you think he's entertaining that Indiana job?
Oh no. Bruce better. I think he stays where he's at. You
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Indiana's home for him. You know, his son wanted to play at Indiana. I mean,
Yeah.
we had him on the show not too long ago. That's the only reason I thought about it. I was like, could that be something? I don't think it is either.
Yeah,
But
because
could it
I
be?
feel like Oates and granted, man, Auburn had a good year, but I think, man, the Oates and his style is the program. I could see it. You just wanting to get away from him, just because I mean, the more and more resources they, you know, give the Oates just within the program, that new development center they're creating. Yeah, I think it would be smart to kind of get away from Oates.
Yeah. So, Trevor, let's go to your recruitment there with Coach Anthony Grant. What was that whole recruiting process like of you wanting to come and play for the University of Alabama, please?
Yeah, so I think that the connection between me and Anthony Grant first started with my brother playing on USA team.
Okay.
So that's kind of how they got in the picture. And then when he took the job that year, it was just kind of that connection. And then me coming here, I really didn't know what to expect. But the first person I see is Nick Saban. So I tell anybody, if you meet him first. I committed before I left the parking lot, still not knowing what Alabama had to offer basketball wise. Even though I knew the coaches, Petway was amazing, Coach
Yeah.
Brandon, Pujols, all those guys were amazing. But the first stop was him, right from the airport. Dropped my mom off, walked over from Capstone. Yeah, before I got in Coach Grant's car to get out. I was like, yeah, I'm coming here.
Right.
Because he
Now,
pops the door opens, he hits the remote, the police guy's outside, he hits the door, he's sitting at the desk, and you're just like, this gotta be a movie. Like, so I'm like, God, this is how it's happening. And I walk in there and I'm just like, it chills already. And he has you ready to run through a wall. I don't know if it's something scripted he says, but it was everything I need to hear. Like, hey, I'm coming to Alabama, and I want to change this or be a part of something. So yeah.
Right.
I've heard Nolan Richardson, the former Arkansas coach who won a national championship in basketball back in the mid-'90s. He talked about whenever football needed some help bringing in a player, and Nolan was one of the biggest coaches in college basketball at the time.
Yeah.
He would go over there and kind of help recruit with football, not with everybody, but just a recruit or two that would know who he was, and it was kind of a big deal. Did Alabama kind of do that with you and Saban?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Saban, he deserves some type of. I mean, any guy who came to Alabama. I mean, and I'll say even Brandon Miller, and I don't know 100%, but although if you had a chance to meet him on your visit, it played a lot into that.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I mean,
are y'all like playing horse with him? Are we eating, chicken wings? Are we, just chilling in his office? Is he telling us, hey, keep your shirt tucked in, go to Sunday school, be nice? I mean, what's the
yeah,
meeting like when you see Coach Saban
I mean,
or a
it's just
basketball player?
yeah, it's just you. Like I said, I don't know how his office changed from when I went in there, but I remember he has the remote, the doors open, and then the guy, lets you in, and then he's sitting back in kind of far back, and you get in there, y'all sit down around the desk, and he goes over, kind of everything on why you should come here and how you can change the program. Probably his same pitch that he gave the guys before turning Alabama around is what he's saying to us, and this is like, dude, I'm talking to Coach Saban. and y'all don't play football, but I know who he is, and everything he said. Like I said, I was ready to. Hey, I'm coming here.
Yes.
Wow.
Even though I just told Oklahoma that I'm going, like, and I was just kind of like, not saying that I was bagging out of it, but I knew that one, I heard that they were going to be out after I committed to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to Alabama, I'm like, well, I need to have another option anyway, because I don't know what's going to happen with Coach Capel.
Mm-hmm.
And if and then the next year he went back to Duke. So at that point, I just knew that Alabama, and then outside of meeting Saban, you get to meet the people next, and they put you in those, those environments, and you get to, feel the love from that side of it, and the hospitality. So yeah, definitely meeting him kickstarted the weekend right, because Coach Grant was a man of many words. So.
Oh, I bet.
So, Trevor, hold that thought. We're up against another break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into your first season at Alabama in 2010. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Trevor Releford will return with us right after this. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Trevor Releford, the former Alabama basketball player. And before we move to your first season at Alabama, Heath has one more question about recruiting. So, Heath, take it away with your question, and then we will dive into the first season of Trevor here at Alabama.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Trevor, I wanted to ask you before we dive into your playing time. Talk about that very first trip coming in to Tuscaloosa. Did you fly in? Where did you fly in? Who picked you up? What kind of car were you in? Were there a lot of pretty girls in skirts with their makeup all done and their hair? What was going on? Was it just Coach? Did we go to a steakhouse as we got there? Just walk us through what it was like and your
I'm
first
trying to
impressions
remember.
of Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, so I remember getting flying into Birmingham, and Brock Morris, which I don't want to. I forget where he's at right now, but he's coaching in college now. He comes and picks me up. He was a GA at the time. He takes us down. Me and my AAU coach, we flew in town.
And what kind of car are we in? Anything special?
Just a little, just a recruit mobile, I guess.
Okay. All right.
The standard, not like the Lamborghinis and the things they pull up in now, but yeah, just the typical recruit truck. And then yeah, I mean actually my visit was with my mom. Actually, I'm sorry, the visit was with my mom.
Okay.
So we fly in, like I said, we drop her off at Capstone. Coach Grant, he's picked us up from the airport, and that's why we dropped her off. Then we go and check in at with Coach Saban. I see Coach Saban. Then we go to Baumhauer's, and that was just kind of my experience with the South and the food and everything. My mom lost her mind over some fried pickles or whatever it could have been. So she was just sold on the food already. But yeah, then I think that visit I was with the guys, and I mean even Jermichael and some of those guys, now we talk about it, and they was like, man, that was the best night we ever had, as a team. And I'm there just with them. So I mean, it was just hit it off with them, that first night. And yeah, we were just in the room just hanging out, but it was such a family vibe. And like Scenario, Anthony Brock, like all those older guys, Mikael Torrance, all those guys were still there. So we just had, I think Real, and I won't leave this part out, I think he had, the Patron bottles where they have like it's like a 3-pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he got it as a gift. But at that time it was just like, do we go to the liquor store, or do we just, pop open do we pop open that? So I mean, yeah, it was a good time, man. And that was a long time ago. So hopefully no one gets in trouble for me telling that part. So yeah.
I think the statute of limitations have well passed.
Yeah, I was 21 in heart.
There you go.
So, Trevor, the third game of your first season there at Alabama, you had the opportunity to play in an early season tournament in St. Thomas. What was that experience like for you? And what was it like scoring 20 points against Seton Hall in that tournament?
And I might as well bring this up. What was the drinking age there? Were you 21 at heart? Were you there at the what was it, the Bahamas, Stephen?
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm joking, of course.
St. Thomas is wide open.
you were using that Common Core math. Yeah, I'm 21. I'm 21.
Yeah, and I mean that turn. If I'm being honest, I mean we was all ready to get back home.
Really?
It was a tough 3 game stretch for us out there. I think we lost to St. Peter's. So I remember getting off the plane, getting back from the Virgin Islands, and I mean we had practice the next morning, and I want to say Mal Moore, he was Mal Moore, he was at the top of the steps. We had practice at 8 o'clock. He stood at the top of the steps in Coleman Coliseum the entire time, just looking down, at everybody. And at that time we're like, man, we just went 0-3 and lost to St. Peter's. They
Right.
just got their eligibility, I guess, or so it was a tough trip, to say the least. And then you turn around that year, we transitioned into, I think we went undefeated at home. We tied Florida. We were 1 game back from Florida from winning the SEC regular season. So
Right.
yeah, it was a tough stretch, but I think it prepared us for the long haul of that season.
Who noticed Mount Moore? And you're a freshman, and I'm sure you know who he was, but did the coaches tell you, like, hey, boss man's up there, or was it the players like, hey, yo, big boss man's watching us here at the top of the steps? I mean,
Nah,
how did,
everybody knew. Everybody was like, "Hey, he's up there," and then you could just tell. I mean, no one else knew we had practice, so for him to get in the gym or to be in the gym, I mean, yeah, I knew. I mean, I knew who he was before, but I'm like, I know what this is. We just went on a
right.
terrible stretch in the Virgin Islands, didn't win anything, and it was tough to come into that because leaving high school, our team just went 25-0 and won a state championship. So
Right.
I lost, coming from losing 1 game in 2 years to going into that was a big adjustment. But like I said, that 3 game stretch turned our season around for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Did Mal Moore show up to any more practices after losses?
No, I don't think he needed to after that. Yeah,
Wow.
we were trying to get it together. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, what was your welcome to the SEC moment?
Oh, welcome to the SEC moment. Because I want to say we beat Kentucky that year at home. But I'm trying to think when we played against, what was the guy's name at Ole Miss?
Andy
God,
Kennedy?
Andy Kennedy was there, but the point guard, actually, I'll tell you, it was at Mississippi State,
Okay.
and I think they had D Bose that was there.
Yeah,
And
D-ball.
he was I think any of the games against him, and I can't think of the guy name that was at Florida. They were both veterans in the league. But yeah, those were some battles, some tough battles for me at the beginning. But I wouldn't say anybody just got the best of me in the SEC, but I do know those guys. They showed some veteran things to me that I kind of learned from.
Where were some of the most insane venues you played in at the SEC? Which venues stand out in your mind that, man, this place is just maddening. This place is just deafening. This place is a madhouse. I bet. What were those difficult atmospheres to play in the SEC when you were playing?
I would definitely say the Swamp, and when you go to Florida, and not that necessarily the Swamp, but like their basketball side and their gym. I mean, it's so. I mean, they're putting their hands over you and out of bounds. So definitely
Wow.
Florida. I mean Kentucky, man, the floor is just rumbling. I mean, soon as students get in from the warm ups to the game, I mean, the floor is just shaking and vibrating. So I mean, that's a cool atmosphere. And I mean, then you go to New York. We played in the Garden, in the NIT, and then also preseason NIT. So winning the championship in the Garden against Villanova was kind of cool because I mean they brought a good crowd out being up that way and yeah, it was. I would say the Garden. I know I hate playing at Mississippi State. I think they just started turning on the lights in that place because every
Well, the
time
schools are
we
so close together. I mean, you're an hour
yeah
apart, and everyone packs out the place.
yes, but I
I mean, they
mean
could
I
play in
just feel
women's checkers; it'd be a sellout, no matter what campus it was on.
yeah, but I just feel like Mississippi State, like now I don't know if they did any upgrades to their gym, but it just the lights used to be so dim, and
Hmm.
it just I mean, I'm just like, how do you get up for this game? Like, I mean, you can barely see the people in the stands. It just was, yeah, it was an interesting gym, and then Auburn, of course, I can't forget about that place.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't like the little gym, but to each his own in that case. But yeah, they definitely packed the gym out. Their football guys was always involved in the game a lot. So yeah, especially if which I don't think they won a lot when I was in school, but if they won the game in football, they would definitely show up to the basketball game
Hmm.
and kind of stick their chest out a little bit.
I
So,
know we're about to go to break, and I was going to ask this real quick. We had on a guest here recently talking about adjusting the shooting in the gyms, and he said Rupp was the hardest gym to adjust to because it was so big. Did you have that problem at Rupp?
Oh no. Rupp, yeah, Rupp was I mean, I love playing in Rupp. The hardest gym for me had to be Auburn because like, I'm just feel like everybody's just on top of you. And,
right.
Gotcha.
you going from Coleman. That Coleman is I think the perfect arena. I think they could do some club seats above or whatever if they want to cut back on some seats or whatnot. But I definitely think that Auburn was a tougher one just because I mean it just made you just feel just claustrophobic and just on top of you.
Wow.
So, Trevor, we are up against yet another break, and when we come back, we are going to continue with your career at Alabama. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Trevor Releford, the point guard from Alabama. And Trevor, let's go on ahead and finish up talking about the 2010 season. You guys ended the regular season playing Georgia and won that game 65-57. And then the next game in the SEC tournament, you had to face Georgia again. Talk about what it was like to face the same team back to back.
I mean, we that's one of the main games and things that come up when I'm with that group of guys is that like we really got robbed from I guess the NCAA birth in that case because I mean we beat that team 2 times.
Yeah.
And then, at that point, all the analytics and all the things they can do now for your scheduling, I mean, it didn't help us out, even though that team still got the nod over us and we beat them, back to back games.
Right.
And I thought, with how we finished in the SEC, I mean, at that time when I mean, Kentucky was good, Florida was good, Vandy was good. So, I mean, we had teams in the SEC that were, solid ball clubs, but yeah, we should have got the nod after that sequence of beating them 2 games, and
Yes.
then that the SEC game was just one of my favorite games because the guy called a time not the guy Coach Fox I want to say was there.
Yes.
He called a timeout and the guy hit the buzzer beater. And so he calls a timeout. They take the shot back. We go to overtime. I think I hit a go ahead layup or something like that in the overtime. But I mean, I think we came all the way back in that game, and we were down big.
Hmm.
I want to say to start the second half, and we just kind of walked them down. And yeah, we looked at each other, and yeah, we kind of knew when we got to a point where like, man, we didn't came this far. Let's just go win it.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm glad we pulled that one out. But hey, we didn't get the nod in the tournament that year because that could have helped our program and us and that team out as well by going to the NCAA that year.
Yes.
Trevor Releford's our guest here on the Stingray Show on Tide 100.9. Trevor, the SEC tournament. Tell us what that's like as a player. You can even talk about your freshman year compared to the years afterwards. But going to the SEC tournament, what are these guys going to be facing this week? I mean, I know it's a new arena, neutral court, all that, but what's the emotions like? What is the mindset like heading into the SEC tourney?
I'm just, and that's another thing, just to be completely just honest. I mean, those guys going in there now, I think we all were trying to win the SEC championship. But
Hmm.
at that time, the SEC was just so kind of lopsided, and I
It
think
was
now,
Hadley.
yeah. So I think now you got the SEC where I mean, from the first game, I think the place is going to be packed out all
Yeah.
the way into the end. And I'm looking at the prices, and I'm like, this football or what we
Ah,
doing? But it's good to see where that league is kind of is at right now. And I think Alabama are definitely thinking about going in and winning. And I've been able to be in Nashville when they won the SEC back when Herb and all those guys. So it's cool to see. I mean, those guys are winning, the SEC championship and things like that now. And I mean, hopefully, I said they can get one this weekend and kind of add to his resume and kind of add to their program over the last couple of years.
So, Trevor, let's go on ahead and talk about, because you mentioned it earlier, that run that Alabama had in the 2011 season, all the way to the NIT Tournament championship game. And you actually had a game in Tuscaloosa against Miami where you scored 22 points. Talk about that performance, please, against Miami.
Yeah, so that was in the NIT, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean that was just one of those games where I think at first we really didn't, want to, be in the game because we're just kind of like down about, being in NIT. But then it's just like, all right, we're gonna go make the most of, this opportunity and, see how they getting to New York and playing in the, So all that started to come in line, and it was those guards on the other side. I think Durant, Scott. Um, I mean, they just kind of brought that competitiveness out, and yeah, so I definitely want to have a good game. When those guys got to, going at you and things like that. So
So, Trevor, let's go on ahead and talk about the next game against Colorado there in the Garden. You had the game winning layup against the Buffaloes. Walk us through that play as you remember it.
yeah, so I mean, that game right there was. I don't think a lot of people really knew, but
Oh, of course.
I hope his phone didn't die. Oh no, Trevor.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, what's happened, dude?
I'm not sure. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so just start that over about the Colorado game, okay?
Yeah. So the guy, Alec Burks on Colorado. We're both from Kansas City, and at the time, I know everybody's gonna be tuned into the game. Like, I mean, he was, the player of the year, '09, coming out of Kansas City, and I was one of the guys in the year after that coming out of Kansas City, and we finally got the matchup in the Garden, and just to get that final bucket, where that go ahead bucket was. I mean, it was cool to do it in the Garden. I still think that, I mean, it kind of happened so fast and no one really talks about it just because of the buzzer beater at Georgia. But I feel like that was one of my favorite ones while at Bama, for sure.
Gotcha.
Trevor, this could go for overseas. You're talking about Alabama high school, whenever. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you during a game? Whether that be a timeout, in a close game, you're drawing up the last shot, or a blowout loss or a blowout win? What is the funniest thing that you can recall, a story that you could share with us?
Dang, the funniest thing. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, it was one game that I think it was against Oklahoma, or I'm losing so many games, but I'm losing the actual game that it was. But I just know that I was like, man, I gotta go to the bathroom, and Coach Grant was just like, you really gotta go right now. So I run back to the bathroom, and like, as I'm coming out of the bathroom, I'm just drawing my hands off and doing all this, and the camera is just like right there, like as I was going back for an injury. So I come out and I'm just like, God, all these cameras are back here, and I just needed to get to the bathroom, and then I just went back in the game. I think it was Oklahoma, at a neutral site, and yeah, they just followed me all the way back there, and then like literally as we were coming out of the bathroom,
Well,
cameras are
Give
just
me some
right there.
privacy, man. Give me some
Yeah,
privacy.
seriously.
look, I can't believe I'm about to ask this question. Was it a quick bathroom break, or were we checking our cell phone?
Yeah, it was one of those. I needed some me time.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Come
So,
on, guys. Give me
wow.
some privacy.
And so how were you playing up until that point?
Oh, I think a little slow, you know.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah, I got to it after that though. I started getting to it after that.
And do you remember how many points you had? And was it a win or a loss?
I think we lost. It was Oklahoma, so yeah, I think we lost. But I definitely had a little bit more, you know, an extra step for sure.
Wow.
Some of those
So,
pregame
Trevor,
meals used to be rough now. You going to certain places, and then especially you go to New Orleans or you go up to like you know up there when you playing LSU. Yes, it could get tricky. You get too many po' boys, too many fried shrimp the night before. Yeah, your stomach can hurt a little bit. I think
Wow.
Levi had
Never
a
thought
leave.
about that one.
Yeah, y'all got to get Levi on one time, man. He can possibly tell you about his little incident. I'll let him tell his story.
Steven, make that happen.
So, Trevor, we are up against yet another break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about your trip to San Juan, Puerto Rico in the 2011-2012 season. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Trevor Releford. And Trevor, to start the 2011-2012 season, Alabama took another early season tournament trip down to San Juan, Puerto Rico. What was that tournament like, and what was the experience like of playing for you in San Juan, Puerto Rico?
I think that was a good tournament. If we won that tournament, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean that was a good tournament. I'm not sure if I think I got maybe first team or some award there. But yeah, it was good to have a whole different experience with that one and winning. And then I think kind of carrying that momentum early in the season. Was that sophomore year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's the year we made the tournament, and
It was.
yeah, so that definitely helped us out. Like I said, going and winning that tournament, having a little bit of success in non-conference, and then being solid again in the SEC.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun tournament, and it's always good to go with some water, and good. I wish we would have went to Maui, but I mean,
Yeah.
Is San Juan like San Thomas? Everyone's 21?
yeah, same rules apply. The food,
Dude,
man, it's just like we were eating I think we were eating at the resorts, but like once you leave like the property or whatnot, and you got some of the real food there, that's when I mean it was a better experience. But I think a lot of those tournaments are, catered on property, and we were just trying to leave and get to some real food, and
yeah.
then we were actually able to, kind of go out and hang out a little bit after we won that one. So
Well, here's a fun
yeah, we had a
question.
fun team.
You've traveled the world playing basketball. You've traveled all throughout the South, and the South's got the best food. We all know that. But of all the places you've been and played, what are just the top 1, 2, 3 food places that come to your mind? Like, oh man, that was so good. I can't wait to get down to so and so, or I hope I get to go there again one day and try that again. Is there anything that stands out in your mind that you're like, oh yeah, it was just amazing?
So I mean, you gotta have, as far as countries that I played overseas. I mean, Greece is number one in a lot of things for me. I
Okay.
mean, from everything. I mean, you can go from food to, I mean, just the people, just everything. I mean, the nightlife. I mean,
You win the lottery, you're moving to Greece.
oh, 100%. Yeah, I
Gotcha.
think my wife would agree too. I mean, we had a fun time. Um, yeah, Greece was a good. Like I said, the best food I had was in Greece. The best barbecue I ever had, that's in Kansas City, of
Yeah.
course. So you would agree, Heath, right?
Nope, I'm from Memphis. I'm not a snob about anything. I don't get me wrong. I like Kansas City barbecue. There's
Yeah,
not many barbecue places I like.
I think y'all only got what, Central and Rendezvous and
Man, we got like 30 different places here that are all
I
amazing, whether that be Interstate, Corky's, Rendezvous, One and Only, Backyard. I mean,
and you think it's better than Kansas City's barbecue? You think if we did rankings, just and let people vote, I think Kansas City, Texas, and
I
now
think Texas
we all got
barbecue
our
is
thing. We
nasty.
all got our thing. We got burnt ends and brisket, which I think that's the best barbecue you could possibly make if I'm gonna throw something on the smoker.
I'm a massive fan of brisket. I am,
Yeah,
but I would put anyone's barbecue against Memphis's any day of the week. I don't care if we're talking about pulled pork, ribs. I don't care if we're talking about spare ribs. I don't think
and we got
whatever
better
you want to
sauce.
bring.
We got better sauce. I
Oh,
mean,
you're now,
Kansas City is
Stephen.
the
Let's say
mecca
a
of
prayer for
barbecue.
Trevor, and let's put him on the prayer list at Sunday school because the lightning about to strike Trevor any second now. Because he lied. He knows he lied.
No, Kansas City. Like, I mean, the president. We got Gates Barbecue. We got Jack Stack. You got Q39. You got Kansas City Joe's. Like, these are places. Like, I just was in Publix. And I'm like, we're selling Kansas City Joe's. We got Meat Mitch. We got, we got a lot. I mean,
But yet the world's barbecue contest is held in Memphis every year
yeah, because I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, you got
because it's the
Rondé.
best in the world.
I mean, I think now since we got Mahomes in Kansas City, I think we're gonna get a lot of stuff back towards that way.
I will say
Like the
this: I like some North Carolina barbecue,
yeah.
and I like a lot of Kansas City barbecue. Kansas City is by far number 2. It really is. I love Kansas City barbecue. It's good stuff. Now Texas, I think that's crap. I think
Yeah,
it's complete crap.
yeah, they just do it. Yeah, I would agree, but I think we got to have another conversation about in some of these places. I'm gonna be in Memphis, so I need you to send me a list of
I
places.
will send you my number and I will take you anywhere you want to
Yeah,
go,
we can
and
go
we will have
together.
a
We
big
gonna go to
time.
each place together. We're gonna do a review, and then we're gonna figure out a time to go to Kansas City, and then
It's going to
yeah,
be a TV show. I
let's
don't
do
have an
it.
agent. You got an agent? Call your agent. Let's get a TV show, and we'll make this happen.
All right, let's do it.
So, Trevor, to cap off the 2012 season, you got the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament versus Creighton. But unfortunately, there towards the end, I was watching the highlights earlier this morning on that final shot that you took. It looked like you were fouled, but no call was made. Talk about that play and that experience of playing in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I when I look back at that game, I do think that I mean, he clearly got me,
Yeah,
but at the same time, how fast that happened, there's no there's no replay, overturn, anything of that nature. But I do think that they wanted Creighton to play against North Carolina
yeah.
because I mean, it was a bigger story at that time, and I always said that, like, I mean, you should have called that, but then again, it's just like, nah, they wasn't gonna let that play out that way. So yeah, I know that next game with Player of the Year and Doug McDermott, and then you got going against his childhood friend Harrison Barnes. it was one of those things that I just was like, dang. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we got screwed, but hey, we should have beat them earlier in that game as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a tough one.
But talk about that experience of what it is like to play in the NCAA tournament, please.
I mean, it was a cool experience. You know, I think we had some Alabama fans that to travel with us. It was new to them because I mean it hadn't really happened in a while and
Yeah.
kind of some up and down years, but it was a cool experience. I mean, I wish we'd have did a lot more because I know the perks and everything just go out the roof when you are playing in the tournament. The gear, I mean, the per diem. I mean, we saw a spike in per diem, so we were definitely trying to get
Yeah.
to another game.
Right.
But yeah, so I think yeah, we wish we could have advanced, and that was the year I thought that. I mean, we didn't have Tony Mitchell, um, part of that team at that time because I think he was dismissed at some point from the team. But yeah, I think people said I got fouled, but if we have Tony Mitchell that game, I think we were able to make a run in the tournament.
Yeah.
We were a good team that year. I mean, we with young Levi and all of them, those young guys coming in, and then you had Mike, and Tony, Drew. So yeah, that was our year to do something, and I hate that it ended like that.
Trevor, I haven't read this article in years, but there was some crazy number years ago, and this is when I was getting my master's in sports business administration. And I mean, this is like, oh gosh, 2003, 2004, 20 plus years ago. But there was an article written talking about NCAA basketball players and the big dance. And I want to say back then that schools were getting something like $189,000 per round that you made it. So everyone that was in the round of 64 or 68,
Mm-hmm.
everyone got 188,000. If you made it to you won that game, the school gets another 188,000. You make it to the Sweet 16, it's another 188,000, all the way up to the championship. And it did not say what team they talked to. They said they talked to multiple teams, and it said big time college basketball programs. But they said, yeah, we feel that pressure to win to get that $188,000 each round. Did you guys ever experience that kind of pressure and that kind of stuff? And also, that same article it talked about the NCAA ponied up money to get you guys new uniforms for the tournament. Was that a thing when you were still playing?
Yeah, see, I didn't know anything about all of the next rounds and the event and what each team got on that end, but I do know that. I mean, there should have been a better way of figuring out how to get some kickback to those guys. Because I mean, now the
Absolutely.
money is just insane, and it's just like, all right, what were we doing back in 2010 and 14? What was the revenue like then,
Right.
and what does that compensation look like? Which I mean, I'm not a guy that want to start that or anything. It's probably already
Mhm.
somebody doing a class action or something. But
I'm sure they're using Morgan and Morgan for the people.
yeah. So yeah, so somebody's doing something, and yeah, it's just I mean to hear those numbers that's new news to me, but
And those numbers are over 20 years old.
yeah, so I mean I just know my brother and them, and they always would advance, to the Elite Eights, the Final Four, Sweet Six. So I just knew that he was just like, man, we get so much per diem. It's almost we get more than what we make throughout the year, just by advancing in these games. So those numbers do probably make sense, and I wonder if that money is split up to those players, as they're, you know, advancing and whatnot, and that's kind of how they are getting more money because. I mean, football guys definitely used to come back with some, after making it to the natty. And I mean,
Right.
those guys, yeah.
The swag bag. What was in your swag bag when you made the tournament?
I mean, like I said, we only made it to we got knocked out of the first round. So I mean, yeah, we got the first tier of stuff. I think the next tier is where it gets a little
Oh,
better. Yeah, man, a little bit more per diem. Like I said, you start getting a lot of gifts. I think my brother was getting like PlayStations, like TVs, like they. I mean, there was an insane amount of free stuff they were getting. The different jumpsuits they would get each round, And being in the Nike schools now with Alabama, each round they're getting a rare shoe or a exclusive shoe from Nike. Something they're getting. Guys are NBA guys sending gifts and stuff. So it seems pretty cool on the outside looking in.
It's like the Hunger Games, but cooler, right?
Yeah.
So, Trevor, we're up against our final break, and when we come back, we are going to jump to your senior season at Alabama. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Trevor Releford will finish it up with us right after this. Welcome back inside of our final segment right here on the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Trevor Releford, the former Alabama player. And Trevor, let's go to your senior season while at Alabama in 2014. You got to play against Duke in an early season tournament, and then on the road at UCLA, in which you scored 34 points against the Bruins. What was it like for you to play against those two blue bloods, and especially talk about your 34-point performance at UCLA?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always on my list, coming to Alabama and being able to, play against those blue blood programs. Which I mean now, Alabama's, in that talk in the sense, and yeah, it was good to play against Duke. I had a lot of friends on that team, and also as well, at UCLA. So being able to play, I think we played Duke at the Garden, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so being able to play in that environment against that team, was special. And then you go and look at playing out in UCLA and in that gym and the history. Yeah, it was. I hate that we lost those games. So the numbers are probably good or stats or whatever, but being able to not get a win there is I wish we could have got one of those guys because like I said, it's a bucket list game and playing against Coach K and things like that. So yeah, it was cool. And then some of the guys, I think Baron Davis, he was at the game at UCLA, and knowing Earl Watson from Kansas City, so seeing him there and he's kind of saying stuff on the sideline or whatnot. Yeah, so it was those were two good games. Like I said, wish we would have came out with a win.
Yes.
For sure.
Trevor, you ever been starstruck during a game? I mean, you mentioned Coach K and bucket list games and stuff, but has there ever been a game like, man, I can't believe I'm playing against this guy, or man, that's Coach so and so right over there? Were you ever starstruck by anybody?
I think game wise it had to be Coach K, and then just kind of hearing him talk about just how they scouted the team, and him, and kind of giving me a little nod and just saying that that guy he kind of takes 6 eyes, which they had a lot of guys keying in on me or whatnot, but it was just cool to hear Coach K kind of talk about me in that sense. But player wise on the floor and being kind of, anytime you're on the floor against, guys at Kentucky, those guys were the one and dones coming in. And, I played against Brandon Knight a lot. So I wasn't too, I think more in AAU when I first played him was just like, okay, he's the number one guy in my position. And, but by the time we got to college, I seen him so many times that, it was just, another battle at that point. But I'm trying to see on the court wise who. You had Anthony Davis. That was kind of cool playing against him at Kentucky.
Were you staring at his eyebrows?
Yeah, no, like when I think everybody did for a little while.
How can you not?
Yeah, especially when they pointed out, because if they never said anything, I wouldn't have. But then I'm like, dang, it really is the brow. So yeah, that he was one of those guys. Dang, and then another thing that was just crazy is that like Alex Caruso
Yeah.
is a guy that like for years I'm just like, man, this dude is like so tough. And I remember going into my Bulls workout and they were just like, who's the toughest guy you played against in the SEC? And I was just like, it was a guy at Ole Miss. It was Summers, which he was a lone guard. I think he ended up getting injured, but he played with Andy Kennedy. He was a talented freshman. But then the other guy was, Alex Caruso at Texas A&M. And people were just like, Alex Caruso, and this was before he did what he did in the NBA and where he's at now. And just to see that full circle, to see him getting the recognition, the guys who were at the Bulls know that when I threw that name out, they were looking at me like, all right, this guy does not know basketball. Like, get him out of here.
Right.
But he ended up being a good pro, and I said it was like, man, he's tough. And yeah, he caused a lot of problems when we played against them.
So, Trevor, let's go back to your senior season at Alabama. We have to talk about this game on February the 11th of your senior season. You scored 14 of Alabama's final 16 points and hit the game-winning three-point shot with 0.6 seconds left against Ole Miss right here in Tuscaloosa. Please walk us through that play as you remember it.
Yeah, so that game was, Marshall Henderson, he's doing his thing. He's he's talking a little bit. I think they got us at their house. So yeah, it was one of those situations where um, I've always wanted the ball in my hands, but at the end it was just my night. We had guys on that team. I think Lace was still there. It could have been any of those guys' night, but yeah, I got going on that one, and we needed to get that win. Like I said, he was doing a lot of talking, and it was all good in all good spirits. But yeah, it was a good one. I kind of watched that one from time to time. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody kind of likes the half court shot, which was cool. But that Ole Miss buzzer beater, that's another one for me. It's just like we really wanted to get those guys, and yeah, I'm glad that one went in.
So, a quick question about all of the players that you played against in the SEC. Which player talked the most trash?
The player talked the most probably be a guy like Anthony Hickey that was over at LSU. He was a little scrappy one. It was all in good. Anybody at Auburn, oh my gosh, them guys talk so much on that team. Just their whole team. So yeah, LSU guys definitely did a lot of. Auburn guys definitely did a lot of talking. Um, Debo's too. At Mississippi State, he got a little bit of going back and forth. And I did a lot of trash talking as well, especially when Jermichael was on a team. I know he enforcer. So like at the same time, every time I get to going, I know he's right there behind me. And you
Right.
got him, Tony, Drew, and I'm like little bro. So those guys were definitely backing it up too with me. But yeah, it was. I don't think it was a lot of trash talking, but yeah, I think majority of it came from anybody from Auburn during that time.
So, Trevor, I've got two questions left for you. The first one, I always love asking our college basketball guys this question. When you talk about the GOAT, which is the greatest of all time, in your opinion, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
LeBron. Like everybody that know me, I've been saying it for years, and I think 50K points now. Yeah, I'm big LeBron James. And I know what Jordan has done as well. I'm not taking nothing away from him. I just think that what LeBron has done for our generation is big, and yeah, I'm a big LBJ fan. For
Gotcha.
sure.
Okay, and finally, what is your favorite funny Anthony Grant story that you could share with us, please?
Well, I'm not. I mean, he had a couple of funny like post games or whatnot, but I can't think of an exact like. I mean, let me see. What's some funny stuff he was just such a serious, straight kind of straightforward guy that you never really can think back on one of those actual funny moments.
Right.
Outside of his his the speech before we played Auburn the year we won at their place. And he kind of was just going in and he was kind of acting like he was the police, and they were throwing this big party, and we were coming to shut it down, you know
Right.
and like his whole thing is how he got worked up in it. Some guys were in there just being serious, but kind of like right after it was cool to see him in that mode, but we wasn't used to it, so it was also funny at the same time. But it did work, and we went out there, executed, and got the win. And we came back, and it was just a good team morale, because we shut the party down that day for sure.
So, Trevor, Alabama is about to enter the SEC tournament. They play on Friday evening, and then looming after that is the NCAA tournament. Give us your thoughts, please, on how far you think Alabama goes in the SEC tournament and then the big dance.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of how healthy those guys are. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, if they're healthy, and I'm not a guy to say like, oh, if Latrell's here, then this happened, that happened. But I think they had guys step up, next man up mentality. But I think they take it one game at a time, and I think they're in the championship game in the SEC. Uh, and also I think that they gonna go far as well in the tournament, because when healthy, man, they're tough to, they can definitely score the ball, but I mean when healthy, man, they can actually on that defensive end, cause a threat as well. So I see him going as far, as the health allows them, and just kind of them being able to kind of continue doing offensively what they've done all year. I think they can go far for sure.
So, Trevor, look, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you for taking time to join us. And hey, the floor is all yours for any final words that you would like to say to the Crimson Tide Nation right here in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, one, I appreciate you having me on,
Thank you.
for sure, man. The show was amazing, from start to finish. But yeah, all the Crimson Tide fans, man, definitely show up for the boys out in Nashville. And make sure y'all support them throughout the entire tournament. And I think Burns and Coach Greg Burns and everybody in the programs, like, continue supporting them however you can, because it's changing. NIL is definitely a big thing, and I mean I think our university's done a good job with that. And just the fans, man, help out however you can, and just continue supporting, packing out Coleman like y'all always done. Yeah, and just, hey, roll tide.
Yeah, man, roll tide.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, look, man, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your spring, and we would love to catch up with you again because I've got a ton more questions for you.
Oh yeah. Just let me know anytime. We'll do it for sure.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah. See you soon.
All right, bye bye. So, that is going to wrap up our interview there with Trevor Releford. Really do want to thank him for taking time to join us. And when we come back on the Tuesday evening edition of the Stingray Show, it is going to be a little bit late because of Alabama baseball. We will start at 9:30, and our guest on Tuesday is going to be none other than Tim Brando, aka Timmy B, to talk some SEC and college basketball tournament as we get ready for the SEC tournament and then, of course, the big dance. So tune in tomorrow evening after Alabama baseball at 9:30, tentatively around then, for our guest, Tim Brando, and we will see you tomorrow evening after Alabama baseball.